So, I know it's been a while, and yeah, I've been kind of stressing out a lot recently. In fact, I know I started this whole project promising myself that I wouldn't let it turn into something high effort and worry about production and everything. And it literally took me 3 episodes in to start worrying about making it be super professional. And it's hard because today's theme is kind of this idea that I've always felt in a way. It's kind of like people always say, go big or go home. I always feel like go big or stay home. And it's really hard for me to show up to things if I'm not feeling 100%. Like, I am taking a half day off work because I've been stressed out, not feeling the best. And though the lesson in that is the fact that I actually debated taking the whole day off. And instead, I did show up in the morning, and it was good that I did because I was able to offer my voice in several conversations at work that resulted in really productive things happening. And I have to remember that I do provide value and that I do matter, and it is good to show up, and like people appreciate me and they appreciate hearing my voice. And it's very easy to feel like if I can't go all out, I don't want to go at all, or I don't want to do something unless I can do it to the best of my abilities. But Andy and I have been talking a lot recently, and we've talked about the idea that like a lot of times showing up is half the battle. There's been a lot of times in my life where I've shown up to things that I thought that everyone else would show up to, and it turned out that I was one of the few people there and that it made a difference and it mattered. And there's been moments where I've been able to talk to famous strongmen and meet some of the world's strongest men because I stayed around after events when not many people did, or I reached out thinking that everyone's reaching out and that my messages would get missed and people would actually get to hear them. I got to talk to one of my original YouTube heroes, Brian Altrue, years ago, and it was really wonderful. Like, it was a special time, and I got to talk to people who I had loved on YouTube, and that meant a lot to me. And it's very easy for me to get stuck in my own head and feel critical or feel like things don't matter. Like, it's very easy for me to avoid things if I feel like I'm not gonna like be noticed or it's not gonna like matter. And I realize it's not very sustainable. Like right now, recently I've realized I still have an appointment on the 20th because I'm excited about it, but I have gotten 2 tattoos in the past month, which is more than I've gotten in a while. And it's hard because like the excitement of a new tattoo or a project going well at work, like it gives me motivation and like lights a fire under me, and it feels good to like feel like I'm making a difference and to like feel like I matter. But at the same time, it's like this huge amount of pressure that I put on myself. This is just like boiling, like crock pot of tension, of just rising levels, and I can feel myself burning hotter. My coworker at work, Andy, will notice it sometimes. Like, it's very easy for me to run firing on all cylinders and be doing the most, and then I crash out pretty hard. And it's hard because it's one of those things that does it bums me out sometimes. Like, dealing with the bipolar stuff is hard because a lot of times like it feels like it's me, like it feels like it's my thoughts, it feels like genuine, and it frustrates me to think that maybe there's something else like causing these things, or like it's hard not being able to like regulate it and like keep the energy harnessed and under control like I'd like to, because there are plenty of times when I'm feeling down or struggling or maybe a bit manic where like I find solutions to things that I wouldn't have otherwise. Like even today at work was able to speak up, and then like just now I took the trash out and our gates never closed properly to the backyard, and I finally looked at it with clear eyes and realized that there was a board that was screwed slightly, maybe like 3/4 of an inch too far, that was actually blocking the gate from closing fully, and I had just missed it for, I guess now, like 6 years, because we moved here in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. And it's hard because sometimes I do feel like I get this clarity, I get this like sense of purpose, and I can look at things with fresh eyes, but at the same time, it's hard because sometimes I turn that critical lens, that like microscopic lens that allows me to focus on things and see things. Sometimes I tilt it towards like the world or to things that are going wrong. And it's hard when right now things just don't feel very good in the world. Like it's genuinely a tough spot. Sorry for the burping. This episode will be a little bit unstructured because I am not necessarily feeling the greatest. But I wanted to get something out there because it is very, very hard for me not to like just disappear unless I'm feeling great. Like my coworker again, Andy, who's one of my best friends, like he mentioned it actually years ago. I think probably would have been like 5 years ago or something, talking about, you always joke that all people ever see at work is Super John. Like I'm there, I'm participating, firing on all cylinders, doing stuff, being constructive, or I'm just not there. And people don't always get to see the lower energy version of myself or the part that's struggling. And it's hard because I don't like it. I don't like the vulnerability. I don't like people seeing me when I'm not feeling my best. Like I like to control how I'm perceived. I like to be in control because part of having bipolar disorder is the fact that there are times that I'm not in control, and it's a real bummer. Like it makes me pretty sad sometimes. And it's hard because it's my mind does get so active and feel so much going on that it's hard not to just kind of like lose track of everything, to kind of just get caught up in the whirlwind. And it's like people always say, like, sow the wind, reap the whirlwind. Like it's very easy to kind of just ride the energy that I'm feeling more and more, and to kind of just like, you know, ride it out. And it's hard because it does feel good in the moment a lot of times to kind of just like burn hotter and hotter, but the fact is like it's not sustainable. Like it does burn me out. It leaves me sore, tired, sick, not feeling good. And it's hard because it's just like it's hard to think through it sometimes, but then other times it actually kind of helps me to um I don't know, have some pain to focus on, to be able to kind of think through things. Like kind of like for me, tattoos have been always kind of like a nice mental reset in a way, because it helps you mind over matter. Like it helps you think past the pain, because you have to at some point be able to just turn it off and to just kind of like find that zen moment, to be able to just kind of like think past it. And I think that's a valuable skill. Like I think it's something that has helped me. It's helped me with the gym, with lifting, and so many things, to sometimes just be able to shut off that side of me that's in pain or struggling, and just be able to kind of like muscle through it. And I mean, I also do like the creative element of tattoos, and it is like it's a fun process. Like I like seeing it done. I like getting to know different artists. I like the results. I like being able to take care of a tattoo afterwards and to feel to like feel the change, to actually like watch my body heal around it, to be able to have it become a part of me and just like leave this mark. Like it feels good. Like it's a way that like I can control how I look. It's like I can control some element of my life. And the fact is, like, I can control a lot of elements of my life. Like, things are pretty good right now. I've done a lot of fun house projects in the past year that have been paying dividends with, like, our energy bills and stuff with the work I did up in the um, attic. And it's been nice to be able to paint over some of the damage that had been done by the cracked foundation. And it's nice to, like, pull things together to, like, have things become better, to like have some noticeable measurable progress. And I like that. Like I like learning and I like creating things and I like being able to have like tangible results. And it's hard for me because sometimes at work and a lot of things in life you don't necessarily see the dividends very soon, or sometimes it takes a while to be able to surface something. And for me, that can be hard because I kind of rely on like impressing other people or like making an impression to feel good about myself, because I do rely on a lot of external validation. And that's something I'm very much trying to work on. Like with therapy, I've been trying to focus much more on being, I don't know, not necessarily a self-contained unit, but being able to feel more like stable and calm on my own rather than like lonely and frustrated. Trying to be able to reframe it from isolation to solitude. Because the fact is, I work remotely and there are a lot of times where I don't see anyone other than Andy and the cats. Like, and she gets home usually about 6 or so, and it's like the times in between there it can be hard because it's like I have Zoom calls and I have music and I have stuff kind of to keep me distracted and everything. But there are those moments where it feels kind of like lonely. It's very easy to feel kind of stuck in the wilderness and to feel like an outsider. Especially now, it's like if I get caught up in the news and focusing on too much that's going on, it's very easy to look out at the world and just see just a world of struggle and a world on fire, and it doesn't seem great. Like I don't necessarily like being a part of it and thinking about all those things. But I have to remind myself that that's not all of it. The news is just highlighting the big events, those terrible moments, the stuff that's going on. When, in fact, there are billions of people doing their best, trying their best. And whenever I meet people, I'm always impressed by them. Like, it's incredible how much people try and how much they have to offer. Like, it's interesting to be able to see, like, why people love things. Like a lot of times if someone loves something and they share it with me, it might take me a listen or two, but when I can see and hear from them why they love it, I can see what's beautiful or what's wonderful about it. Because we all have something. And it's important to see that. I've been debating going to church again recently. Because for a while I'd go to church every few months, maybe sometimes when I'm feeling down. And because sometimes I do miss like a group or a community like that. For a few years when I was first getting sober, I would occasionally try to go to AA, but pretty much always had a bad experience or like something that was off-putting. Because I do things on my own. Like I'm not necessarily a 12-step person and I like to just do things by myself, but sometimes I need people, and I felt like sometimes me not needing a chip and me not being a part of the whole thing, I guess sometimes it feels like maybe for other people that somehow undermined the system, and it just never kind of quite clicked for me. And then of course like I grew up in the church and like had a lot of wonderful times in the church, but I also have a lot of like baggage and frustration about it. And it's hard not to like let that taint things. But I also have to remember like how many great times I had there. And it's hard when there's like so many themes and so many reminders of like wonderful things that are going on in the church. Like one of my favorite movies of all time, I've seen it like 4 times at this point, is The Two Popes. It's Anthony Hopkins and I forget the other guy, but it's Pope Francis and Pope Benedict, and that kind of transference of power that, or transfer of power that happened. And it's a really beautiful story. Like I showed it to Andy a few months ago, and she was like, "It's so inspiring to like see that. Like it does make you like almost believe that there's like more going on in life." And it's hard because we aren't very religious people, and like I tend to have my own kind of mixed view about things because at the end of the day, like I don't know. One of my foundational things that changed the way I thought about things years ago was seeing Kingdom of Heaven, and the quote from Orlando Bloom when they were going to bury the dead, and the priests or bishops were like, "No, you can't do that. Like, they won't go to heaven. Like, you cannot burn the bodies." And they had to avoid disease spreading because Jerusalem was under siege. And I loved his quote of, God will understand, and if he doesn't, he isn't God, and we needn't worry. And that always stuck out to me because I think in many ways we do, I'm not alone in liking kind of some black and white thinking. And it's easy in many ways to kind of like to get down into the rules and the nitty gritty and like fighting over denominational things. And maybe there is importance in that. Maybe I'm just missing it. But for me, it always seemed like the general point was trying to offer some hope and love in what feels like a cold and difficult world. Like we have to remind ourselves that right now it's hard when you're in a country that's at war for whatever reason we're doing this. It's easy to feel like this is the worst it's ever been. And the fact is, the world's been in conflict forever. We're unique in this country as an American. I don't get to see conflict firsthand, really. We're insulated from it. But you forget when you look out at all the countries that are in conflict right now. The Middle East has been going on for decades, if not centuries. There's issues between Thailand and Cambodia a while back. Africa has a lot of conflict going on. Like people are arming up, worried about Russia, Ukraine. It feels like we're in a world at war. But looking through the cycles of history, these things have happened in the past. Like usually about the 20s of every century, Russia has been in some sort of general conflict, at least from the variations in like the 1920s, 1820s, 1720s, 1620s. I looked them up a while back trying to think of the cycles of history because sometimes it does feel like we kind of repeat things. Like a lot of times we like this idea that like we're advancing history and that like things are different, but at the end of the day we're still humans. Like we're still the kind of people we've always been. In fact, in many ways we actually haven't adapted to modern life very well because adaptation and like evolution takes centuries if not millennia, and the world changes around us so quickly. Of even looking at a few years ago how Mid-Journey was going to change art and like different AI models were the best ever, and like no one ever talks about Mid-Journey these days that I see, and like each model seems to kind of like put the ones in the past to shame, and like things are changing quickly. And even then I think we are seeing some slowdown in that realm because I think progress can only go on for so long. I think we'd like to think that exponential progress is possible, but in fact life kind of ebbs and flows. Life in the universe, it gives with one hand and takes with another. There's always going to be some sacrifice. Of all these exciting scientific like breakthroughs or technological breakthroughs, it comes at a cost. Thousands of people are losing their jobs right now. Oracle's laid off like 30,000 people. And a lot of these companies are just like displacing people. And it's hard because at the end of the day, we're in this system, which I love capitalism. Like, I think there have been many beneficial things about it as a pure system, but it's hard when you have power and you have things break the leverages of it. When you have these companies that are too big to even operate within a normal framework, too big to fail, they need government subsidies, they're not necessarily operating in a truly competitive sense because they don't have to make viable products to be a successful company, because investors can kind of float them until eventually they find their way. Or you have companies like DoorDash and Uber that just kind of like still struggle even at this huge scale because we never focus on sustainability. In fact, people always look at it as almost a negative thing if a company's not having tons of year over year growth, when the fact is, especially as a population starts to stabilize or we start to hit like normal levels of growth, things won't just always be getting better and better. Because ideally, if you make a good product, at least with physical products, it should last long enough that you don't actually have people buying new ones every year. And that's a hard thing for many companies to accept. That the fact is, if you make a good product that's bulletproof, that lasts, you're not going to have the same growth as maybe a company that has something that's flashy and you need a new one every single year. And for a while, like, we did kind of have this glimpse at like a possibility of infinite growth when like phones were getting better and better up until the iPhone 10. Each one seemed like a huge improvement. And now sometimes it's just, oh, we have slightly more pixels, a different camera, maybe some better memory, maybe there's a new AI integration in it or whatever. But the fundamental product is still basically the same. Like, at this point, I'm recording on my Galaxy S21, and it is functional. But it isn't giving Samsung more money each year because it's been such a functional phone for me. In fact, this is kind of a huge record to have a phone that's lasted for almost 5 years now. And it's a wonderful phone. It's functional. I have had to factory reset it a few times, but that's been due to some modifications and some stuff that I do. And sometimes I do think that a fresh reset is just kind of nice to have a start over, get rid of all the apps that I'm not using, and to kind of just like start fresh. It is obnoxious that they do put all the bloatware in the games and all that stuff. But it is nice to feel this kind of a fresh start and everything. But where I was going with that is that I think we're in a very strange place right now because things are just moving incredibly fast, but it doesn't seem like we're moving with consideration and intentionality as far as the consequences of our actions, like just as a whole. Oftentimes it feels like we have this kind of short-sighted thinking where it's just almost looking at what's happening next quarter rather than like, what are we doing with the long-term vision of all of this? And it's hard because I think I used to think that I was unique in the fact that I wouldn't think about things for more than a year ahead. And now as I get older, there are those times where I start to think, where, like, what will I be doing in the next 5 years? What will I be contributing to? What will be the impact of these changes now? And it's interesting because it is a change in mindset. Like, I remember when we sold our first house, we had to fix up a bunch of things to make it look nice for the sellers. And it's crazy because a lot of them actually weren't that expensive and things that would have made our lives easier every single day, like fixing the water dispenser on the fridge and like fixing the back spigots and like these little things that at the time felt like, well, it's a mild inconvenience, but I'll just kind of ignore it. And you just kind of like get used to the status quo. And it's nice to feel agency and to be doing things. But for me, I kind of need to find a balance because it is easy, even within myself, to get stuck in that kind of like infinite growth mindset. Like, if I'm not going up, I'm not going out. Like, if I'm not bringing something to the table. I don't want to be at the table at all. And that's not necessarily very sustainable. And it isn't. Like, it does burn me out. And I am trying very hard to figure out sustainable ways to do things. And it's funny because I actually recorded an episode, I guess 2-3 weeks ago now, and I paused it and I actually lost the whole recording. So I'm very nervous about this one. I'm recording on my phone again because I knew what I was talking about when I said I wanted this to be something that's a fun thing, that's not necessarily about making something perfect, but just showing up and just like putting something out there. As just like an outlet, as a way to process thoughts, and as a way to just kind of like think through things. And so that's what this is. Overall, I would say I'm doing pretty well. I mean, there are those down moments. It's hard when you're in a country that's in the middle of a conflict that you don't see the reason for. And it's hard when it feels like things are so divided and everything. But I was thinking about it. I think we might visit Riverbend Church. I had a coworker recommend it a while back. She said she used to go, and I've seen some good things online. And they seem to have kind of a good mix of like traditional church at like 9:30 and then more like contemporary experience at 10:30. I think because we're not necessarily the earliest risers on the mornings, we might go to the 10:30 one. And yeah, I think sometimes for me, and I think part of what church kind of should serve a focus for, is bringing everyone together, and you see people from all these different walks of life, and you get to see how everyone just kind of fits together, and it helps you remind you that people are generally good and decent. And it's especially hard when so many of us just live online or like feel like digital entities, like I feel sometimes. It's hard not to, to feel like the world is the world that I see on the news. And I think it is important to understand that we are devastating the rest of the world and that there are people directly impacted by the choices we make as a country. But you can't dwell on it too much. And it's hard not to just kind of like spiral out when in fact, these days I've been trying much more, especially even with work, is it's very easy for me to get cynical and negative. And I think it can be good to try to break out of that, to look for the positive things, to remember that people are trying their best. Like, it's interesting how many times you meet people and you see people, and like usually when you hear someone's full story, you can see why they're where they're at. And you can even feel empathy, sympathy, or like a sense of connection to realize that most of us are struggling. Even the wealthiest people out there still have their issues, whether it's mental health or like weird things that they can't just work through mentally, this sense of isolation or things never being enough, this like huge pit of greed or whatever it is that they're dealing with. These things that impact all of us. And I think sometimes it's good to just take a breath and to like kind of just breathe and listen to the birds and listen to what's going on outside and to see the world as it is through your own eyes rather than a screen or a filter. And be reminded that like there is beauty in creation. There is beauty in so many people. And that a lot of people are struggling, so the best thing we can do is try to like help each other and try to improve each other's lives. And it's hard because when I'm feeling down, I can be pretty negative and a little bit caustic at times, and that doesn't necessarily improve things. I think it's good for me to be able to talk through things and to share things, but I do want to be a lot more constructive and be a force for positive change. And a lot of that is just like showing up, to just being there and being present, and to realize that maybe it won't be everything you dreamed and maybe it's not as much as you would like to do, but showing up is half the battle, and you don't have to just go big or stay home. Because I know that not many people actually get this far, especially into a 30-minute episode. I don't know how that happened. Like, I think it'll be interesting if anyone gets to this part. But to know that like people do appreciate what I do, and they appreciate what you do. They appreciate your place in their lives. And I think that's important to be able to remember that, to know that most of us are struggling and most of us need a little bit of help sometimes. And I think if we can start to see the common humanity in each other and feel connected, maybe it will help us feel a little bit less isolated. Anyways, yeah, I guess that's it. And I will see you all in the next one.